2025 is finally over. Ooh boy, what a year it was. It was one of the craziest, worst years of my life. My mental health was getting hit all over the place. It was crazy in my mind. It still is, but we're going to talk about 2025. So it was really, really bad. The situation in my country, well, let's just say we had a war and we are on the brink of another one. So, it's going great. I'm recording this video right now not knowing if there will be any internet to upload it for you. Because you probably don't know, but maybe just Google it and search for the situation in Iran. It's getting terrifying. The prices are so high that we don't even know how we're going to live. People are on the streets, and in Iran, if you're protesting in the streets, that means that there's a very, very big chance that you're not going to come back. So everything is terrible, but I don't want to burden you with that. You're not here for that. I just needed to mention that because that's the reality that I'm living in. If you haven't had this kind of fear in your life, you're really lucky and I'm happy for you. But this is my life and this is how I live. And it certainly affects the books that I read. And I kind of said that to also tell you that I didn't really enjoy books this year. I read 85 books. That's a not very bad number. It's just that I wasn't able to get lost in a book, you know? I was reading them, but my mind was also in 100 different places worrying. And when you're worried, you can't really enjoy books the way that you want to. So that kind of affected my reading this year because I was reading in a very scary world. And yeah, okay, I don't want to get more into that because it really affects me and I just lose my train of thought. Let's just get into top 10 worst books that I read in 2025. 2025 was the year of mid books. Everything was a 3 star, 2.5, 3 stars. It was mid, it was fine, it was nothing special. And I really prefer years that I love books and I hate books. And 2025 was not that kind of year. It was just everything was just fine, but it was nothing really special, or it was not nothing really worth hating on. So it was very hard to make this list because I didn't really hate so many books this year. But I did some, and we're going to get to them. Okay, as you probably know, I'm going to start at 10 and get to number 1. Number 1 is the book that I hated the most. If you've been on my channel before, you know. If you haven't, welcome to my channel. You're going to know the books that I hated this year. Okay. Number 10. We're going to start with something that I didn't really deeply hate. I was just annoyed. One by One by Frida McFadden. My first book by her, and I'm already done with it. I wanted to know what she was about because everybody just loves her books. I read one and I realized that she's not going to be for me. So I got in, I got out, goodbye. Good for you if you love her books. She comes out with so many books. So you're never left waiting. But for me, she's a no-no author. There are some type of thrillers that I really don't enjoy. And hers is one of those. When the story doesn't really have a point. When the conclusion just doesn't feel shocking enough. And it's just boring for me. At the end of the day, I'm like, why did you rate this book? You were like, okay, this is a shocker, this is a shocker, plot twist, blah 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 blah. And you ended very dissatisfyingly. So I hated that. Not like passionately hated it, but I didn't enjoy it, and it kind of closed the book on Frida McFadden for me. I'm good. Okay, I don't need to read all of her books. I'm good. I'm going to leave her for the ones that love her. Number 9, One Italian Summer. I was not really blah about this. I hated this. Hear me out. I love books that are set in Italy. I don't know why. They always get me. It doesn't matter if it's a romance, if it's a thriller, if it's a, I don't know, whatever this book was. It was supposedly romance, but I didn't see any romance in it. Contemporary? Yeah, let's say it's contemporary. I don't care what the genre is. If it's in Italy, I probably love it. I love the language, I love the atmosphere, I love even the accents of Italian people talking English. It's one of my biggest dreams to one day have a trip to Italy. But this book was awful. So awful that even the fact that Lauren Graham narrated it didn't save this book. It was so bad. This is about a girl whose mom just passed away, and they had this trip planned between the two of them. They were going to go there together, but she passed away, and our girl, I don't even remember her name, decided that she was going to go there by herself because why not? And when she goes there, she sees her mom younger, like many, many years ago, and it's a kind of magical realism. It was such a bad book. I rarely feel bad for a husband. Okay, it really doesn't happen that there is a white dude, a very, very average man, who's married to this complex character, and I'm like, oh, I feel bad for you. I'm usually bored by them, and I'm like, I don't care. Let's talk about more interesting people. I was feeling bad for this man because she treated her husband like dirt. I've never seen anybody treat their husbands this bad, and I come from a divorced parents' family. Okay, my parents are divorced, so I've seen things, but she was treating him so bad. This man was trying to help her because her mom passed away, and he was trying so hard to just be there for her and help her go through this and be there in any way that she wants. And she was just a mean person who hated her husband for no reason. No reason. She went to Italy, cheated on this man with someone else for no reason. And she kept telling us again and again and again that her soulmate was her mom. And that's why she can't be with her husband because he's not her soulmate, she was. And I was like, this book has so many problems. So many problems. I do not think that this book dealt with grief in a very good way. I think it dealt with grief in a very awful way. And I get that people who are grieving can do some, I don't know, selfish bad things. I just don't think this book was a good representation of that. Because I hated her. I didn't care that she was grieving. Whatever it was that she was doing was really, really wrong. And I hated this book. I just hated that. Book 8, The Way Up is Death. I was really excited about this book. The concept was like one day a kind of hovering tower appears in London, and a few people get selected and get to this location and they cannot leave. They have to just go up this tower, and each level that they go up, it's like a video game. A lot of them die. And I was like, okay, that's fun. That's a very fun concept. The writing was so bad, awful, that I couldn't even get past the first chapters. I was like, I hate this. I hate this. What are you talking about? I kept skipping paragraphs because it was so awful. I got to 25% and DNF'd this book. And I usually don't DNF any books. This is the only book that I DNF'd in 2025, and I needed to put it on this list because imagine how bad can you write a book that a person that never DNFs anything DNFs it. And that was me. And I was really excited about this book. Just awful writing. Maybe if you have the audiobook, give it a shot. I was reading the ebook. One of the worst books ever written. Maybe the story is really great, and if I got to that parts of it, I would have been able to ignore the writing. I just hated it so much that I never made it to any parts of it. They were at the first level of this tower, and I was like, I hope all of you survive or all of you die. I don't care. I'm out. I was out. I couldn't care less about any parts of this story because of the writing, and that's why it deserved to be here. 7. Oh boy. Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I have a very complicated relationship with Alice Feeney. I love some of her books, and I hate some of her books. Daisy Darker is one of the worst thrillers that I've ever read, and I know a lot of people love that book. I don't have a problem with you, but I have a very big problem with that book, and the narration choice that she made, and the conclusion. It was just such a bad book in my opinion. But I love like the book she came out with last year, Good Bad Girl. What is that? What it was called? I think it was called Good Bad Girl. So I usually read every book that she comes out with. I'm either going to love them or I'm going to hate them. I just always give her the chance. This was one of the ones that I hated. Yeah. This starts with our character, a man who's a writer, and he decides to go to this. I don't even remember it. I remember the anger. I don't remember the storyline. She goes to this very secluded island, and he realizes that he can't leave. And it's a very weird island that her missing wife had a connection to. At the beginning of the book, the first parts of it, we watch him be on the phone with his wife while she disappears. So that's why he's kind of searching for his wife, and he's also a writer and moves to this very weird town that are very weird about the fact that he's an author. He gets to live in this cabin who was from a former author, and this community is just obsessed with writers for some reason. And everybody is just weird. They're acting weird. He can't leave. He can't get any messages. It's just weird. And it should be really fun. You're in this island. They are weird. He's stuck. The tension should be really, really high. And it is. I'm not saying it's not. At the beginning, it's very good. You're in this very secluded part of the world. Everybody is weird. You're like, ooh, what's going on? Love that. He keeps seeing his missing wife everywhere. And that's where it starts to go in a way that I didn't like. I didn't like the conclusion to the mystery. I did not like the conclusion to the book itself. I just didn't like it. I think she just starts really great stories with great concepts of like, I don't know, you're in this family house. I'm talking about Daisy Darker. And you're stuck. You can't go out. People start dying. You're on this island. Things go crazy. People start dying. And then she just takes them into these weird places that you did not need to go. And they don't even make sense. If you start thinking about it deeply, you're like, there's no way that that happened. There's no way that you saw that person and was like, and I don't want to spoil it. It was just a bad book, in my opinion. Thrillers can go really wrong really fast, and I think this was a case of that. It started really good, it got along well, and then it just fell. And I hated that so much that it made me hate the whole book. That's Beautiful Ugly for you. Sorry, Alice Feeney. Hopefully, this year I'm going to like the book you come out with because we have a love hate relationship apparently. Book 6 With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. Oh, another disappointment. Again, the same story. I loved The Only One Left by Riley Sager. So I thought, let's just give her new release a chance. The last year's books was amazing. Probably this year's is going to be also great, right? It's on a train. They can't get off the plane. People start dying. It's going to be really good, right? Wrong. It was awful. Oh, it wasn't even like Beautiful Ugly that at the beginning it was fine. From the very, very first pages of this book, it got awful. So you experienced the beginning, it was fine. The first death was good, and then it was getting more awful and more awful and more awful the more I read. I hated every single character in this one. So you begin with our FMC, who invites all of these people who had some part to play in the downfall of her family. She had a very big, successful family, and it just went awry. And some of them died, some of them killed themselves, and these people are supposedly the ones that had something to do with that, and they were a cause. And each of them did something to make that happen. And she just invited them on this train that will not stop until it reaches its destination. And she has like X amount of time to make them confess to what they did. The concept is great, the execution was awful. It was boring. Yes, this tensionful story was boring to me. The characters were not even interesting. I didn't even care about their main character, let alone the side ones. And the pacing of the story was just not good. It was not good. I didn't care about anybody. The deaths were not interesting enough. Storyline itself was not interesting enough. I didn't care who did what to make this billionaire family fall apart. I didn't care. And I didn't care about the ending. And I hated the ending. And I hated it. I didn't like it. I didn't like any of the storylines and how they concluded. It was just a bad book, in my opinion. Riley Sager, you really disappointed me. Oh, they're getting worse. Okay, we're get to the top 5. So technically the bottom 5 because I hated them the most. Number 5 we have The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. Okay, let's just say when I was reading it, I wasn't hating it that much, but the more I sat with this story, the more I hated it. Not like, okay, maybe not hated it, but disliked it so much, I guess. This is weird because this book was written by an Iranian. I am an Iranian. I live in Tehran. This is set in Tehran. So technically I should love it, but I really hated it. Let's get into why. Okay, so this book is about our FMC Elahe, and it has dual timelines. In the first timeline, you're watching her be a child until adulthood in Tehran, while Tehran is going through some protests, some changes, some arguments, disagreements. as Tehran always is. It's nothing new. It's been like this for hundreds of years, and we never get to a better place. And the second timeline is after the revolution of Iran, when Elahe is in the US and the war is happening in Iran. Why did I hate this book? I didn't really like the writing. That was the first part of it. I didn't like the way she used Farsi in this book. It was so unnatural. I don't know how she's a Persian and she wrote the dialogue like this. You could give English dialogue to Google Translate and the dialogue would come out like this. That's not how people talk in Iran. And she should know that. She's an Iranian. The dialogue was cringy at best. It was really awful. It was like, who talks like that? We certainly don't. Maybe you should have just stuck with talking in English. I don't know. You wrote the book in English, write the dialogue in English too. Because translating it to Farsi was really bad. And it just took me out of the story because I was like, I don't talk like that. Nobody does. Really. And I didn't really like the message of this book. Okay, in my opinion, you're out of this country. You were lucky enough to able to escape this country. We weren't. And you are capable of writing any kind of story, which we weren't. Okay, so why did you choose to write a story about how bad the regime before the regime we have right now was to give credit to this regime that is right now in place? Yes, at the end of it, she was like, yeah, it didn't happen like we wanted it to. The revolution just got sideways, and they did these awful things too. And it was like the last 50 pages. You spent hundreds of pages talking about how bad the past regime was and what awful things they did and why people wanted to change that. Well, you could have spent those pages talking about the problems we have right now. Talking about the awfulness of the last regime is just to the benefit of this one because this regime built itself up on the whole fact that, oh, the last one was so bad, oh, we had a revolution and we are so much better than them and you can't say anything bad about us because we are better than them. And then you wrote a book saying how bad they were. Why would you do that? Why are you focusing on the parts of the history that are not very threatening right now? It's not like we're past all of this. We are living in a very free, great Iran, and you were like, okay, I'm going to talk about this part of this history and not this part. No, we have a present issue. We have a present issue that we need to fix, and it is killing people. And you spent your time giving them. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, I don't know. I don't have a very good right now and another example of it. Imagine that right now Germany was led by somebody like Hitler, okay? And it was just like that. It was a different person, but it was doing the same things in different ways. And it was really, really bad, the situation about that. And this new regime was the one that got Hitler out of there. And right now, instead of talking about this problem, you started talking about Hitler. You wouldn't do that because we have a right now problem. Let's not talk about that. These ones are worse than that ones. Why are we talking about that? Because if you're talking about that, you're giving these ones a reason to do all the things, being like, oh, but they wanted to fix that. Let's not do that. I hated that. I hated the story, I hated the message, I hated the writing, and it made me really, really mad. It wasn't maybe a bad book, but because I'm Iranian and I'm related to all this stuff, I don't know, maybe I'm not objective enough. Take that with a grain of salt, that I'm not objective, I guess. Let's move on before I get more mad and get to book four, which is not going to help us because I'm going to get mad again. Hardbacks by Emil Rio. If We Were Villains is always going to be one of my favorite books ever. And I waited years for Emil Rio to come up with a new book, and she was taking her time, so I thought it's going to be as grand as that one. It's going to be beautifully written as that one. It was going to be so great. And then I read Hardbacks. Oh god. So this one's technically about, the synopsis tell us that it's about a rock band. And this rock band was reaching its peak fame while something violent happened. And it just get disbanded. Some of them got to jail. Things just went crazy. That's not what this book is about. I wish it was. If this book was about that, it would be really amazing. Imagine if we had Daisy Jones, but the reason that Daisy Jones and the Six broke up was not Daisy and Billy, it was something violent. This book was just a bad book. We had maybe like 25% of this book with this band. We spent a very tiny amount of time with this band, and it didn't even give rock band vibes. There was no rock band vibe in this book. It was just a few musicians with each other. And we didn't even get to see that clearly. They did not give rock star vibes. And the toxicity of that space was not there. And the violent thing that happened was not hinted at. It was not explored. It didn't really make sense. It was just weird. Suddenly, something came out of the blue, and it was weird, and we got to watch that thing from the other room. We didn't even get to be in the room while, I don't know, two people fought. We needed to at least be there. It was so vague. I'm not saying that the thing that made this violent thing happen needed to be explored more. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the results of that. We just jumped over them and we're like, yes, this happened, and that happened, and I was like, calm down. Tell me what really happened. I didn't see the bond between these people to be sad about the fact that it got broken, and the timeline was just wonky. You moved from different ages of Suzanne's. Our main character is Suzanne, the child of one of the rock stars, for whatever reason. And we got to see her in different ages that I didn't care about. We get to see that very tiny part of her life that was in that band, and it was fine. That parts were fine. And then we got to see her when she's older, and I just couldn't care less. I didn't care. That's the whole point of this book. I did not care about any parts of this book. I didn't care about any of the characters. And she wrote If We Were Villains. And in that book, I cared about every single character, even the one I hated. But in this one, I didn't care about anything or anybody or any part of the story. I don't care. I don't know why it was written. I don't know how she's the same person who wrote If We Were Villains. And unfortunately, I saw a video a few weeks ago, I think, that was like she copied If We Were Villains from The Secret History. Not like copied. It was like the inspiration was so big that right now that she's trying to just build a story up by herself, she can't make it work. I'm not saying that's the truth, maybe we're wrong, but judging by the last two books that she came out with, yeah, they don't have the magic that was in If We Were Villains, and the video was saying that If We Were Villains magic comes from The Secret History. I'm going to link that video down below. It was the Hidden Rabbits podcast, and they were talking about all the books that they read, and it was a part of that at the end. I'm going to link it down below. She hated that book. I didn't. I love it. But I had never read The Secret History, so I thought maybe I was missing the point that she was making because I didn't know the original book. So that's that. Oh god. Book 3, Sovereign. I read this book for my cowboy romance reading vlog, and this is really bad. This is very, very, very bad. It's not titled Dark Romance, but I think it should be because it's really crossing so many lines. The consent was missing in this book. So in this book we have our main character Kiara, I think that's her name, and she's married to this cowboy farmer person. They have this rival ranch that is very, very powerful. It's called the Sovereign Ranch. And one day, he, the leader of that, comes to their house, sees that Kiara's husband is very abusive, and very, very soon, Kiara's husband dies while being out with him. And then he just kind of takes Kiara. Like, she's something to take from somebody else. Technically, he's like, okay, you owe a lot of money to our ranch, and I'm going to just let you go. You can't pay me back. There's no way you can pay me back that amount of money. And I'm going to let that go if you become my submissive. Do you think that's consent? If you don't have any other choices, that's not consent, in my opinion. And Kiara was an abuse victim, so that makes it even worse. So you saw a battered woman that was going through a lot. She was traumatized really young. She started that relationship when she was 18, and now she's 21. She is young, hurt, traumatized, and abused. You saw her, wanted her off her husband, her abusive husband, only so that you can make her your own sub. Because you said you're going to make her a great sub. Yeah, she is, because she is not consenting. Because she'd hurt and she needs help. And she's not in a place to tell you no or stop you or do anything. So yeah, of course she's going to make a great sub. Because she can't defend herself. And that's not being submissive, actually. Subs need to give consent. She wasn't giving you consent. She's your victim. You're victimizing a victim. Again, you're re-traumatizing a traumatized woman. And that's sexy. That's hot. That's a great book. That's a great romance. I don't get it. I don't get why this book was written like this, and I don't get the fact that people are not talking about it. We should be. We should. Oh, I can't believe we are still having to argue about consent. Just use consent in your books. And don't make consent. Was I saying consent in a weird way? If I was pronouncing it weird, sorry, English is not my first language, and when I get angry, it just slips. Make consent in a way that I can see it. I don't care how. Make it a signing deal. Make it just, I don't know, spoken. Make it in any way that you want to make it. I just need the consent to be there. And no, she told me with her eyes is not consent. Unless it's like, do you want to do this? And she's like, can't say, oh, she looked at me and that was consent. No. Give me a clear consent. How hard it is to put consent in your book. I mean, you're a writer. You figured out a whole book of these two characters interacting. You couldn't put one consenting scene in there. Not one. It's that hard to have consent in your books. After the consent is there, you can do whatever you want to do. Go as crazy as you like to do. Put a gun in there, talking about hunting Adeline. Put a, I don't know, knife, or a bottle of oil, or a water bottle. I don't care. Do whatever it is that you want to do in crazy ways that nobody has ever thought about. Burn yourself. Jump off a cliff while doing it. Just have consent in there. Go as crazy as you want to go. I don't mind crazy. That's fine. I'm crazy too. Just use consent. Thank you so much. That was my soapbox. Thank you for being here. Let's go to the second book. The second to last book. Oh, I'm going to get mad. Be ready for me to get mad. Trigger warning madness. Catabasis by Arf Kwong. Ooh, how am I going to talk about all the things that were wrong with this book? So the synopsis of this book was that we have Alice and Peter, and they're studying magic, and the professor that they have one day dies and go to hell. And these two decide to go back to hell and bring him back because he's the only one that can write that recommendation letters that they need. That's not at all. I mean, yeah, it is. They are there, but that's not where the focus of this book is. Or it doesn't even make sense at the end. I can't believe that R.F. Kuang is called the most genius writer of our time. I'm not making fun of that. I believe that too. I was one of those people. And then she wrote this book. How did she come up with this type of storytelling? You should always know what characters are thinking about, where they're going, what the motivation is, how the place looks like, and the pacing should be good, and it never was. I couldn't care less about which part of hell they were in. I never knew which part of hell they were in, where they were going, how are they finding their way. It's just like a tiny window of this place. We saw these two stupid characters interact, then the next window. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And my biggest problem. The characters of this book are the worst characters I read this year. Well, Peter is plain and blank and uninteresting, so we're just going to put Peter aside. He was just there to be there. He was a romantic love interest. Please. He was just a side character being there to give support to our main character who did not deserve support. But Alice, the worst character I read this year. Maybe ever. Maybe I don't remember, but I think she's the worst character I read this year. She was so bad, guys. The internalized misogyny was crazy. She was a misogynist, sexist, self absorbed, selfish kind of character. She was so bad, there was not one trait in Alice that I liked. I hate her for everything that she was and she represented. I do not know why Arf Kuang wrote this book like this and wrote Alice like this. And I do not know why people are not talking about it more than this. I've never heard anybody mention the misogyny in this book. We came to points that I was like, okay, even people that are not liking it are not talking about this part of it. Am I wrong? And then I read the parts that I highlighted and I was like, no, I'm not. Why are we not talking about this? I've heard the argument of, oh, it's dark academia, it's supposed to be pretentious. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't care that it's pretentious. I don't even think that it is pretentious as much as I don't know if we were villain was. This is misogyny. Alice talked about women like they were garbage. She talked about women like they were inferior than her because they complained about the misogyny that was going on, because they tried to change the misogyny that was going on in their field, because they protested the misogyny that was going on in their field, because they cried sometimes. And I'm like, I hated it. I was nauseous because of the things that she thought about other women. It was so bad. And I really don't get it. Why we're just letting it go because what? Because it's Arf Wong? Because she's supposed to be the best writer of our century? Why did you write this? Why did you write this? Honestly, I don't get it. No, I don't hate this book because it was too academic for me. And it was so above my head that I did not understand it. The academic stuff in it was fine. I liked them actually. I loved the chapters that were just about explaining something, some concept or something. They were fine. I liked them actually better than the whole book itself. I had problems with two things. First of all, let's start with the small one. The storytelling was awful. The pacing was bad. The storytelling was bad. I never knew where we were or where we were going or even why. You're going to argue that, oh, she was trying to make a point and we need to write these things to talk about. Yeah, we should. We should talk about it. But there was no point of this book that there was a turn that Alice realized that she has internalized misogyny or that the way she acted was wrong or anything like that. She was super judgmental about every single character in this book, most of all women. She let go of so many crazy things that their professor did, but then judged other women for small things that they did. She made fun of every single woman in this book and was like, I'm so much better than you because I don't complain about this misogynistic, stupid field that we're in, and I'm just going along with it. You should be more like me. I'm so perfect. I hated her. And I'm so mad at Arfang for writing it right like this. And then giving her a happy ever after without change. Should have at least realized that something was wrong with the way that she was acting. But no, she was the main character. She ended up with a love interest who loved her and was ready to sacrifice himself for her, and then had a very great happy ever after with no repercussions of what she was doing, no consequences of any of her actions. People just sacrificed themselves for Alice, which is a very wrong thing with the plot, might I add. But character wise, why? She was a very bad person. And I just don't understand why Arfgon would write this, knowing how hard women are trying to change the misogyny in academic fields. She should know it, she's in it. Why did you represent it like this? This is not a representation. This is awful. This shouldn't exist. I'm better than other women because I know how to interact with men. I know how to read their moods and be what they need so that they treat me better than the other women. Why are you complaining so much? You're making yourself sound like idiots. That's how she talked. I'm not exaggerating. I just don't remember everything that she said. I just know that she said worse things than this one. Just watch my reading vlog if you want. I point everything out, I think. I was really mad in that book. The video. Just a bad book. I'm so disappointed in RF Guang. And I don't like the fact that people are not talking about it more. And they're ready to forgive that because she's RF Guang. Shouldn't she know better? Shouldn't she do better? Shouldn't we expect more from her? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why this one was in Goodreads Choice Awards. I know, I'm not saying I don't know. I know why. But oh my god, is this bad? I'm not trying to offend you if you gave this book 5 stars. If you liked it, good for you. I'm just saying that maybe we should have more discussions about the way some things are portrayed in our books. We should try harder and do better. I'm just going to move on because I'm going to get more angry the more I talk about this, and I don't want to yell at you. Let's get to the worst book of this year. If you've been in my channel, you know I have a 2 hour rant about this book, Unethical by Lauren Beale. Oh my god. This book is a taboo romance between a patient and his therapist. Getting in love, falling in love, and doing stuff. I hate both of these people, but the therapist more. So the patient one is a stalker. He is obsessed with his therapist since the first day, since before they meet, actually. Since the day he Googles her. And I could forgive him because I'm like, you're a mental patient. You were in jail. You're not okay. She's there to help you. I could not understand her. She broke every single rule, every ethical line. And she was not even in love with him. She was just obsessed and wanted to have sex with him and sleep with him. And it was so bad. So, so, so bad. If you're asking yourself, well, if you don't like the concept, why did you read a taboo romance? No, I like the concept. I liked Born Darkly or Madly, whatever the first book was, and that's the same concept, but it was fine. But when you have a therapist, a licensed therapist whose job, whose moral, whose job, whose responsibility is to help this man and help the society, because at the end they asked her for a report of whether or not he was stable enough to live in society, and she said yes, knowing that he is not okay, he's not healed, he has done really scary, dangerous things before, and she was like, I don't care, I just want to have him. I'm not going to let him go back to jail. Ma'am, what are you doing? That's not just unethical, that's illegal, immoral, disgusting, crazy. I hated this book. I hated every part of it. And every time we got to Sarah, her name was Sarah, I wanted to just bang my head against the wall. I didn't care that he was doing really wrong things. It was a given. Okay? He's a man with a lot of problems. That's why he was in jail. And he belongs there. But you wrote a report and said, no, he's no danger to society. Yes, he is. You watched him be a danger to society. What are you doing? Just because you wanna bang him, then that's fine. Such a bad book. That's it. Those were the 10 worst books of 2025. I started the video thinking that I was going to be so calm because I'm not really mad at any of these books. I didn't hate them that much. And I was going to just calmly tell you all the books that I liked less. And then I spent minutes yelling in the mic. Sorry. I'm so sorry. If you watched until now, thank you so much for being here, for watching my video. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment down below the books you hated the most this year. Because I would love to hate read them. And thank you so much for being here. Have a great new year. Hopefully 2026 is going to be a great year. See you in the next video. Bye bye.